Hello everyone. In photochemistry part 1 lecture, we have discussed about what are photochemical reactions, what is the process of photochemical reactions, and laws of photochemistry, that is first law Grother-Draper's law and second law Stark-Einstein's law. After that we have discussed about quantum yield and quantum efficiency. So in this photochemistry part 2 lecture, we are going to discuss about high quantum efficiency reactions, low quantum efficiency reactions. After that photophysical processes, that is fluorescence, phosphorescence through Jablonski diagram, and photosensitized reactions. So let us move to the topic. So quantum yield or quantum efficiency, this we have discussed, right? So that is pi equals to number of molecules of reactant reacted or decomposed in given time by number of photons absorbed in same time, right? So here when number of molecules of reactant reacted or decomposed in the given time by number of photons absorbed. If it is number of moles, that is number of Einsteins, so, right, that is equals to rate of reaction by number of Einsteins observed, right? So as per the Stark-Einstein's law, for one molecule one photon will be absorbed in the primary process. So that's what whenever the molecule have come, so that is number of photons would be there. Whenever the number of moles of reactant is there, the number of Einsteins would be there. So this is quantum yield, which we have discussed earlier, right? So here, so as per the Stark-Einstein's law, so the quantum efficiency of primary process of a photochemical reaction is always equals to 1, because as per the Stark-Einstein's law, in primary process, so one molecule will absorb one photon of energy. So that means 1 by 1. So that is equals to 1, right? So, or 1 mole of reacted molecules absorbs 1 Einstein energy. So that is 1 by 1 equals to 1. So that quantum efficiency is 1 for primary process, right? So but for overall reaction, the quantum efficiency may be or may not be equals to 1. So that means, so in the secondary process, based on the secondary process reactions, the quantum yield would be dependent. So quantum efficiency or quantum yield gives the information about the secondary process, right? So that's what is the important point of quantum yield or quantum efficiency, right? So now we will see some reactions with quantum yield. So just the first reaction is decomposition of HI, hydrogen iodide. So in that the first step is when this reactant molecule HI is absorbed some light, then that is dissociated into H dot plus I dot, right? This is a primary process. This is nothing but a chain initiation step or initiation reaction, initiation step, that is primary process, right? And in the secondary process, this H dot, whatever the H dot is formed here, will react with another HI molecule, and that is converted into H2 plus I dot, right? And this I dot, whatever the I dot formed here, will react with the I dot which is there in primary process, and that I dot plus I dot will be giving to I2, right? So this is the decomposition of HI. Overall reaction is 2 HI molecules by absorbing 1 photon energy, that is converted to H2 plus I2. So this is the overall reaction. So for this reaction, at quantum yield equals to, here number of reactant molecules reacted are 2, because 2 HI by absorption of photon is 1, so that is 1. So 2 by 1, that is equals to 2. So for this particular reaction, the quantum yield is equals to 1. So that is what is the quantum yield. So in this, there is a primary process. So in the primary process, light absorption takes place, right? And so that free radicals are formed, and whatever the free radicals formed is reacting with another reactant molecule, so that the products are formed. So the overall reaction is this, right? Based on that, we have calculated the quantum yield, that is equals to 2. So this is one example of photochemical reactions. Next we will see another example of photochemical reaction, that is reaction between H2 and Cl2 to form HCl. Okay, so here the primary process, that is Cl2 is absorbing 1 photon of energy and it is converted into 2 Cl dot. So Cl dot active species or free radicals are formed. This is primary process or nothing but a chain initiation step. So in the secondary process, that is a chain propagation step. Okay, that is whatever the Cl dot which is formed is reacting with hydrogen, that is another reactant molecule, and it forms HCl plus H dot. HCl plus H dot. So this is exothermic reaction. So that heat is released, right? So now what will happen? Whatever the H dot which is formed here is reacting with another reactant molecule Cl2, and that forms HCl plus H dot. HCl plus Cl dot, right? So here again this Cl dot is reacting with another reactant molecule, that is H2, and it forms HCl plus H dot. Again this is exothermic reaction. So that this reaction continuously takes place. Right, again this H dot will react with Cl2 and it forms HCl plus Cl dot. Again that Cl dot is reacting with H2 and it forms HCl plus H dot. Again this H dot will react with Cl2. So this process continuously takes place like a chain reaction, right? And the chain termination step is this, that is Cl dot, and again it is reacting with one more Cl dot, it forms Cl2. This is a chain termination step. So this propagation and termination steps comes under secondary process, right? So for this reaction the quantum yield would be 10 to the power of 4 to 10 to the power of 6, because it is having a high quantum yield, that is 10 to the power of 4 to 10 to the power of 6. So means by absorbing 1 photon of energy, so this much of molecules are reacted each other and forms HCl as a product. Right? So here what are the reasons for high quantum yield? What are the reasons for high quantum efficiency? So excited molecules may be participating in dark chain reactions, right? So here whatever the excited molecule, that is Cl2, which is reacting with another reactant molecule continuously, so that it forms HCl. So that is a chain reaction is started, that's why the quantum efficiency is high. And if the secondary reaction is an exothermic, then heat is liberated, may excite some more molecules, right? So these are the two reasons for the one is maybe chain reaction and another one may be secondary process exothermic reactions. That these two, because of these two reasons the quantum efficiency would be high. So if you observe the reaction between H2 and Cl2, the both things are there. Here the secondary reaction is exothermic. So because of the exothermic reaction, some heat is liberated in this reaction, so that activated some more reactant molecules, so that a chain reaction takes place. So that continuously these will reacting with each other to form HCl as a product. So a chain reaction is started. So that's why the quantum efficiency for this particular reaction is 10 to the power of 4 to 10 to the power of 6. So for the reaction between hydrogen and chlorine, so that it forms HCl. This is the example for high quantum efficiency reactions. So this is because of this exothermic reaction of the secondary process. So because of the exothermic reaction, some more reactant molecules are activated, so that a chain reaction would be started. So that's why the quantum yield would be very, very high, right? This is the example for high quantum efficiency. Next we'll see one example for low quantum efficiency. So observe here the reaction between hydrogen and bromine, so H2 and Br2. So here also the same thing. So bromine will absorb 1 photon of energy, Br2 will take 1 photon of energy, so that 2 bromine radicals are formed. This is primary process, right? So in the propagation step, that is Br dot will react with hydrogen and it forms HBr plus H dot, right. So Br dot is reacting with H2 and it forms HBr and H dot. This is an endothermic reaction. This is an endothermic reaction. So now what will happen, right? So whatever the H dot is reacting with Br2 and forms HBr plus Br2, and this H dot again may react with HBr, the product, right, and that may form a reactant H2 plus Br dot. So in this case, as the secondary process is endothermic, it requires a lot of energy, right. So by absorption of energy, the molecules are activated, so that the reaction would be processed, right. This is the, now the chain termination step is Br dot plus Br dot are reacting each other, it forms Br2. So this is a chain termination step, and this is the propagation and chain termination step comes under secondary process. So in this bromine and hydrogen reaction, the quantum yield would be 0.01. The quantum yield would be 0.01, that is 10 to the power of minus 2. This is very less, means that means by absorbing 100 photons, one molecule of H2 and Br2 reacting each other, so that HBr would be formed. So here, because of this reaction, as the secondary reaction is endothermic reaction, it requires lot of energy, so that it absorbs energy, so that further reaction would be processed. So that's what the quantum yield would be less for this reaction. So what are the reasons for low quantum efficiency, right? So the secondary reaction may be endothermic, just now we have discussed, or if the excited reaction is a reversible one. For example, excited molecules are deactivated, that is, so A star is becoming again a ground state molecule, or excited molecules may collide with other than reactant molecules and get deactivated. So in some cases, whatever the excited molecules are there, that may react with other than reactant molecules which are available in the process, so that it transfer the energy to that unwanted molecule, so that it is getting deactivated. So the reaction would not be processed. So because of these three processes, the quantum efficiency would be less. So in this hydrogen and bromine reaction, we have observed that the secondary process is endothermic process, that's why the quantum yield would be very less, that is 0.01, around 10 to the power of minus 2. So this is one example for low quantum efficiency reaction, right. So this is what about photochemical reactions, and what is quantum efficiency, and what are the examples for high quantum efficiency reactions and low quantum efficiency reactions. Next one is photophysical processes. Photophysical processes. Here there is no chemical reaction by the absorption of light, but only physical changes are occurring. So just observe this example here. A is a molecule which absorbed a photon energy and it's getting activated. So if it forms a B product, that is a chemical reaction, this is a photochemical process. So this we have discussed just now, right. So whatever the excited molecule will be deactivating by giving out the energy. It forms again this reactant molecule, right. So this process is called as photophysical process. Here it is because there is no chemical changes are happening, only physical changes or physical processes are occurring. That's why this means the excited molecules is converted or is transformed to reactant molecule by giving out the energy which is absorbed. So that's what is a photophysical process. So here A star is the excited molecule, A is the ground state molecule. Photophysical processes are explained through Jablonski diagram. Okay, now we will be discussing Jablonski diagram. So just observe, this is A is a ground state molecule, right, which is absorbed some light energy and it is going to excited state, right. So as it is going to excited state, again it will be returned to ground state by losing the energy, right, by giving out the energy, right. So in majority of the cases in molecules, the electrons are in a paired state. Molecules are having electrons are in the paired state, right. So in the excited state, either it may be paired state or it may be unpaired state, right. So that is explained through spin multiplicity, that is explained through spin multiplicity. So total spin of the state is given by 2s plus 1, that is called spin multiplicity. Spin multiplicity equals to 2s plus 1, that here s is equals to total spin of the state, total spin of the state. So just observe in the electron pair, in the paired up electrons. So now what is happening? One electron will have positive spin and another electron will have negative spin. So that total spin s equals to plus of plus minus of, so that is equals to 0. So now here in the case of electron paired state, spin multiplicity equals to 2s plus 1, that is 2 into 0 plus 1, right. So that is equals to 1. So this is called, means electron paired up states are called as singlet states, because as spin multiplicity is 1, these are called singlet states. So electron paired energy states are called as singlet states. So now we will see for unpaired electrons. So for unpaired electrons, so here the total spin s equals to mod plus of plus plus of, or mod minus of plus minus of, so that is equals to 1. So whether we can take both are plus of or both are minus of, but the overall total spin equals to 1, because we are using the mod value, right. So now the spin multiplicity Sm equals to 2s plus 1, that is 2 into 1 plus 1, so that is equals to 3. So here the unpaired energy states are called triplet states. Unpaired energy states are called triplet states because of spin multiplicity is 3, that's why these are called triplet states. So here in molecules, electrons are paired up in the ground state. Always the molecules are having electrons in the ground state in a paired up state. So that's why always molecules are existing in a singlet state. Always molecules are existing in the singlet ground state. So that is called S0, right. So the corresponding excited states means the corresponding singlet excited states are S1, S2, S3, S4, S5 and goes on. And if you go for triplet states, there is no ground state for triplet states, because no molecule existing in unpaired electron states, so that the ground state is not possible in case of triplets. So that triplets will having only in excited states, because unpaired electrons would be there in excited states only. So that triplet excited states are T1, T2, T3, T4 and goes on. There is no T0, because triplet ground state is not possible, because all the molecules are in the ground state in paired up electron state only, that is nothing but singlet state only, right. So the energy of a singlet state, is always higher than the corresponding triplet state. So that means the energy of singlet state is always higher than the energy of triplet states, corresponding triplet states. So means here energy of S1 is greater than of energy of T1, energy of S2 is greater than energy of T2, energy of S3 is greater than energy of T3, energy of S4 is greater than energy of T4, because in triplet state, as electrons are in unpaired state, so there is a repulsion between two electrons, because as the electrons are having same spin, there is a repulsion between those two electrons. So that's why the energy would be less when compared with the corresponding singlet state. So that the energy of singlet state would be higher than the energy of triplet state of corresponding states, right. So now we will see the Jablonski diagram. So that this is a singlet state of ground state, singlet ground state, that is S0, right. The first excited singlet state, that is S1, second excited singlet state, that is S2, third excited singlet state, that is S3, and goes on, right. And the first excited triplet state, that is T1, second excited triplet state, that is T2, third excited state, that is T3, and goes on. Here the energy of S1 would be more than energy of T1. Energy of S1 is more than energy of T1, energy of S2 is more than energy of T2, energy of S3 is more than energy of T3. Just now that we have discussed, right. So a molecule is absorbing energy, so that it absorbs the energy, and it will be excited to either S1 or S2, or it may be S3 or S4. So that depends upon the how much energy that we are giving to the molecule, right. So molecule is absorbing energy in the ground state, that is nothing but in the singlet ground state, and it will be excited to a singlet excited state, that may be S1, S2, S3, based on the energy which is available for it, right. So after that, after going to, for example, in this example we are considering that molecule absorbs the energy and it is going to S2 state, right. So after going to S2 state, it may be goes to T2 or it may goes to S1, right. So this is as it is going to S1, so that is called IC, that is internal conversion, because these all are S0, S1, S2, S3, S4 all are singlet states, means there is no change in spin multiplicity, all are having same spin multiplicity. So that is what is called internal conversion, right. So if it is goes to T2 or from T2 S1, S1 to T1, so these are called ISC, that is interstate crossing, because there is a spin multiplicity changes from S2 to T2 or T2 to S1 or S1 to T1, so this is called interstate crossing, right. So here from S2 to S1 or S1 to S0, so these are called IC, that is internal conversion. S2 to T2 or T2 to S1, S1 to T1 or T1 to S0, so these are interstate crossing. So these are in between two different energy states, the transformation is in between two different energy states, so that's why this is called interstate crossing, right. So now the radiative process from S1 to S0, okay. So here as the molecule is in first singlet state, it is going to ground singlet ground state, it gives some energy, so that is called fluorescence. So means the radiative transformation between S1 to S0 is called as fluorescence, Now see here, after going, so there is a possibility of transformation takes place from S1 to T1 through interstate crossing, and after getting the molecule in triplet excited state, that is first triplet excited T1, it may goes to ground state, that is S0. So here the radiative transformation between T1 to S0, that is called phosphorescence, T1 to S0 is called as phosphorescence. So here, so excited molecule reaches higher energy and it is again going into low energy state without change in spin multiplicity is called IC, that is internal conversion, that is nothing but S3 to S2, S2 to S1, S1 to S0, just before we have discussed, right. So here the radiative transformation between S1 to S0 is called as fluorescence, right. And the so the transformation of energy state, higher energy state to low energy state is occurring through spin multiplicity change in spin multiplicity. Those are called interstate crossing, that is ISC. We have discussed, that is nothing but T2 to S1, that is T1 to S0, T1 to S0. So the radiative process or the transformation from T1 to S0 will give emit the energy, that is called phosphorescence. So in the case of fluorescence as well as phosphorescence, the absorbed energy is always higher than the emission energy. For example, if it is absorbed 100 joules energy, so we may get 99.5 energy only. We may not get 100% energy. So that's what energy absorption is always higher than the energy emission. That is nothing but frequency absorption is always greater than frequency emission, or wavelength absorption would be less than wavelength emission, right? So means the energy which is absorbed is always greater than the energy which is emitted through the fluorescence as well as phosphorescence. So in case of resonance fluorescence, that is energy absorbed is equals to almost equals to energy emission, or frequency absorbed is equals to frequency emission, or wavelength absorbed is equals to wavelength emission, right? So when it means whatever the energy which is absorbed by the molecule, the same energy will be giving out while coming to the ground state. So that's what is called as resonance fluorescence. Resonance fluorescence means it is giving the same amount of energy which is absorbed. That's what is resonance fluorescence. Now we will see what is fluorescence. So here the radiative transformation between S12, that is first singlet excited state to singlet ground state is called as fluorescence. So here what is happening in between S1 to S0? So as these two are similar kind of energy states, because there is no spin change, spin multiplicity is not changed in between these two singlet states. So S0 is also singlet state, S1 is also singlet state. So because of that, right, so what is happening here? The absorption of light radiation and emission of light radiation is occurring almost simultaneously. So that is called fluorescence. So if the absorption as well as the emission both are occurring in simultaneously, so that kind of process is called as fluorescence. So why those are occurring simultaneously? Because those two, that is S1 as well as S0, are similar spin multiplicity energy states. So there is no change in spin multiplicity in between these two states. So that's why both absorption as well as the emission would takes place simultaneously. So that is what is called fluorescence, right? So fluorescence is exhibited by the substances which are in dilute solutions. So most of the substances exhibit the fluorescence when those are in dilute solutions, right? So that is a molecule is coming from first excited state to singlet ground state, that is S1 to S0 by giving out the energy, that is h mu dash. So that is what is the fluorescence, right? What kind of molecules show fluorescence? So molecules with rigid structure shows fluorescence. So for example, molecules with multiple bonds like C double bond O, N double bond O, N double bond N, C double bond O, C triple bond N, C double bond C, C triple bond C, right? So the molecules which are containing these kind of bonds, that is N double bond O, N double bond N, C double bond O, C triple bond N, C double bond C, C triple bond C, such kinds of bonds are present. So those molecules will exhibit the fluorescence. Some other examples, calcium fluoride and uranium is also exhibiting fluorescence. So the molecules with benzene or this kind of structure or pyridine. So which are containing these kind of structure also exhibit fluorescence. For example, fluorescein and azophenanthrene. So these are some examples for the molecules with fluorescence, right. Next is phosphorescence. So the radiative transformation in Jablonski diagram, we have discussed that the radiative transformation between triplet excited state to singlet ground state. First triplet excited state to singlet ground state is called as phosphorescence. So here the transformation takes place in between two different energy states, because T1 is a triplet state and S0 is a singlet state, right. So just go back to the Jablonski diagram. So in Jablonski diagram we have discussed the process here, right. So as the molecule is getting to S1 state, S1 first singlet excited state, so it may goes to S0 or there it may goes to T1. If it goes to S0, that is fluorescence, we have discussed, and if it moved to T1, so it's a non-radiative process and slowly it is moved to T1, so that the spin multiplicity is changed here. So spin multiplicity is changed here. After going to T1, the molecule will be going to ground state, that is S0, by giving the energy. So that process is called as phosphorescence, right. Here as the molecule is moving from S1 to T1, right, it requires some time, because S1 is a singlet state, T1 is a triplet state. So what is happening? The spin is changed here. So here the spin multiplicity is 1, the spin multiplicity is 3. So here electrons are in a paired state and electrons are in a unpaired state. So to get this, it requires some time. So that the phosphorescence would be occurring, right. So that's why emission takes place for a long time, means there is a lag in between the absorption and emission. So in the case of phosphorescence, emission would not take place immediately after the absorption, it requires some time, means there is a time lag in between absorption and emission, right. So emission of light radiation on a longer time scale, not simultaneously, is called as phosphorescence, because of spin multiplicity changes. So it requires some time, so that's why the emission would takes place on a longer time scale, not simultaneously. So that is called phosphorescence. So emission continues even after excitation ceases. Even we stop giving the energy, that is nothing but we stop giving the absorption of energy, but emission would continuously takes place, right. So this emission may be continued for seconds, minutes, hours, or it may be days, based on the circumstances and based on the materials which are absorbed. That's what is process is called phosphorescence. So for examples, the molecules shows phosphorescence which are examples for the molecules of phosphorescence. The molecules which are showing fluorescence are dissolved in H3BO3, boric acid or glycerol, shows phosphorescence. So means all the fluorescent materials which are dissolved in H3BO3 or glycerol shows phosphorescence. And also zinc sulfide, that is ZnS, as well as sulfides of second A group elements, So these also shows, that is calcium sulfide, right, magnesium sulfide. So these also shows phosphorescence. So these are the examples for phosphorescence. So here the basic point is fluorescent is a immediate or simultaneous process, and phosphorescence requires some time. So it's occurred in a longer time scale, not immediately or not simultaneously. The next one is photosensitized reactions. Photosensitized reactions. Here, so as we have discussed photochemical reactions, right? So in photochemical reactions, so one of the reactant molecule is absorbing light energy, so that it is getting excited, so that active species are formed. So this active species are reacting with other reactant molecules and forms product, right? To occur a photochemical reaction, the basic point here it is the one of the reactant molecule should absorb the light energy. So without absorbing the light energy, there is no photochemical reaction, right? So in some cases, if whatever the reactant molecules are there in a reaction, whether it may be 2 or 3 or it may be 5 or 10, right? So if those are unable to absorb the energy, but those have to undergo for a photochemical reaction, right? So all the reactant molecules which are there in system are unable to absorb the light energy, but they have to undergo photochemical reaction. What is happening? So no reactant molecule is absorbing, right? So in some cases, what is happening? So if it is not possible, right, means if the absorption of light radiation is not possible for the reactant molecules, some external molecule will absorb the energy, right? Some external molecule, it's not part of that chemical reaction, right? So that external molecule absorbs the light energy and give it to the one of the reactant molecule, so that reactant molecule will be excited and the reaction takes place, so that photochemical reaction is occurring. So this type of reactions are called as photosensitized reaction. Means if the light energy means the absorption of light energy is not possible for the reactant molecules, some of the external molecule will absorb the light energy and will transfer the light energy to reactant molecules, so that photochemical reaction takes place. So this kind of reactions are called as photosensitized reactions. The external molecule or the external substance which absorb the light energy is called as photosensitizer. Right? So the major work of photosensitizer, it may not involve in the reaction, but it absorbs the light energy and giving to one of the reactant molecule, so that the reactant molecule will excited and the reaction would be processed, so that photochemical reaction takes place. So this is what is the work of photosensitizer, right? So just observe the best example of photosynthesis reaction. In photosynthesis reaction, the photosynthesis reaction is this, that is 6CO2 plus 6H2O in the presence of chlorophyll and light, in presence of chlorophyll and light, right? So it forms that is glucose C6H12O6 plus oxygen. So here as the light is there, it's a photochemical reaction. Here what is the work of chlorophyll? See, chlorophyll which is present on the leaves, that is green leaves. So the chlorophyll is acting as photosensitizer in this reaction. Because this CO2 and H2O are unable to absorb the light energy. Now this chlorophyll will take the energy, and this will give the energy to the reactant molecule, so that the reaction will be processed and it forms product. So that is what is the role of chlorophyll. So that's why chlorophyll is acting as a photosensitizer in this particular reaction. So examples of photosensitizer like chlorophyll, mercury, cadmium, zinc, benzophenone, SO3. So these type of molecules are acting as photosensitizers in different reactions, right? So here in photosensitized reactions, photosensitizer is referred to as donor, the reactant molecule is called as acceptor, because photosensitizer is absorbing the energy and it is giving to the reactant molecules, means it is donating the energy to the reactant molecule. So that's why photosensitizer is called as donor, photosensitizer is called as donor, and reactant is called as acceptor, reactant is called as acceptor. So now we will see the mechanism of photosensitized reactions. So here this is donor, that is nothing but photosensitizer, right? So here this donor is in ground state, that is nothing but singlet state, it will absorb the energy, and it is going to singlet excited state, that is D1, and this D1 upon inter state crossing, it is converted to D3, that is triplet excited state, right? So triplet excited state. So this donor which is there in triplet excited state will give the energy to reactant molecule. This A is a reactant molecule, that is nothing but acceptor, that's why I am writing A, acceptor. So now as this triplet excited donor will give the energy to acceptor, reactant molecule. So now the energy transformed from donor to acceptor. Now this acceptor, reactant molecule, will be excited, so that it would be in triplet excited state. So that the donor, as the donor losing the energy, so it is going to normal state, so that is D, right? So this acceptor, reactant molecules triplet state, is undergoing for reaction and forms products, So this is what is the mechanism of photosensitized reaction. So here donor is in triplet excited state, will transforming the energy to acceptor, reactant molecules, and so that reactant molecule will be going to triplet excited state. So that triplet excited state reactant molecule undergoing for reaction and form product. So right here D is absorbing the energy and giving to the reactant molecule. So that's what is the role of photosensitizer in photosensitization reactions. So we'll see some examples for photosensitized reactions. One is decomposition of hydrogen or dissociation of hydrogen. So hydrogen molecule directly will not absorb the light energy. So right here in this mercury will absorb the energy and will be going to excited state, that is active species. Hg is undergoing for excitation, and this excited mercury will transform the energy to reactant, that is hydrogen, and now hydrogen will undergoing for excitation because of taking the energy from mercury, and mercury will be getting normal, right? And this excited hydrogen will be undergoing for dissociation, so that two hydrogen radicals are formed. So in this reaction mercury is acting as a photosensitizer. And in the second example is decomposition of ethylene, that is C2H4. So in here, also mercury is acting as photosensitizer, mercury taking energy and it is converted into excited state, mercury excited state, right? So and this excited mercury will give the energy to reactant, that is ethylene, so that ethylene will be excited, undergoing for excitation by taking the energy, that mercury will be getting ground state, and right this excited ethylene undergoing for dissociation, so that forms ethine or acetylene plus hydrogen, So this is the decomposition of ethylene. In this mercury is acting as photosensitizer, right? So this is what is the mechanism and examples of photosensitization reaction. The next one is chemiluminescence. So means production of light radiation through a chemical reaction. So in photochemistry, what we learned is, so by absorbing some light energy some chemical reactions are taking place. So that is what is photochemistry. Here the light energy radiation is produced through a chemical reaction. So that is whatever the process is called as chemiluminescence. So because of some chemical reaction, light is produced, light radiation is produced. This process is called as chemiluminescence. Luminescence is called light, right? So these are the reversible process for the photochemical reactions. In photochemical reactions, reactants are absorbing energy and undergoing for chemical reaction, and here by chemical reaction some light is produced. So that's why these are reversed to the photochemical reactions. So the light produced in this process is called as cold light. So for example, glow of fireflies, that is nothing but glowworms, in which because of luciferin protein some light is evolved. So that is one of the example for chemiluminescence. And the second one is green glow of slowly oxidizing phosphorus. Is also one of the example for chemiluminescence. In this photochemistry topic, so these are the things we have discussed, right? So here what are photochemical reactions? What is the process of photochemical reactions? What is primary process? What is secondary process? How the photochemical reactions takes place? After that, laws of photochemistry, and those are first law, that is Grother-Draper's law, that is nothing but light absorption or absorbed part of light radiation is only responsible for photochemical reactions, that discussed in Grother-Draper's law. After that, Stark-Einstein's law. So in this one molecule is excited by absorption of 1 photon energy, or 1 mole molecules are absorbed or excited by the absorption of 1 Einstein energy. So this is Stark-Einstein's law, second law. After that, based on these two, quantum yield or quantum efficiency. What is quantum yield? How to calculate the quantum efficiency, and seen some of the examples for high quantum efficiency reactions and low quantum efficiency reactions, and what is the reasons for high quantum yield and low quantum yield. After that, photophysical processes through Jablonski diagram. So in that, fluorescence, what is fluorescence, and examples for fluorescent materials. Next is phosphorescence, what is phosphorescence, and examples for phosphorescent materials. After that, photosensitized reactions. What is photosensitizer? How the photosensitized reactions takes place, and what is the role of photosensitizer, and examples for photosensitized reactions. After that, chemiluminescence. So these are the major things that we have discussed in this photochemistry topic. Thank you.